All right, go ahead.
Okay, welcome everyone. Today is August 31st, 2022, and this is the SIG Cloud Provider community meeting. We follow the Kubernetes SIG community guidelines, which essentially means raise your hand if you want to talk, and please treat each other as you would expect to be treated, or explicitly, please be kind to each other. I will share my screen to show the agenda here, and then we'll go through things. Okay. All righty. So let's see. Normally we go through triage at the beginning of these meetings, but as we are running in kind of a limited capacity today, I think we'll come back to triage at the end if we have time. We do have a couple agenda items today. So I guess we'll go through the sub-project updates to begin with. And it doesn't look like there are any recorded currently. Are there any, would anyone like to make a sub-project update that isn't already on the agenda? All right, I am not seeing any hands go up, so we will move through to the agenda items then. All right, the first agenda item is from dmoiseev, who's a colleague of mine and was curious to talk about this topic here. So Dennis, why don't you take it away?
Yep, so here you could see the link onto GitHub issue, which I created a couple of weeks ago already. And that's about design discussion of possible labels to exclude load balancers from auto discovery logic on AWS. So the issue which we are faced within Red Hat was basically about that new availability zones which AWS was introduced, namely wavelet zones, that far edge zones, and so on. And these zones have a limited capacity, not capacity, but limited capabilities in terms of which load balancers we could use. So, and we faced quite a lot of issues because Cloud Controller Manager tries to attach machines to load balancers which are not intended to use in these zones. So here I just want to, I don't know, ask about what people thinking about that design which I propose, how I can proceed with that further. Will I need to prepare some enhancement documents? Yeah, these kind of things. So basically want to have some feedback on that thingy.
So are we looking for excluding the entire zone? That's what it's apparent from your discussion. For example, we don't want to include the local zone or the wavelength zone. Is that the intention here?
Yeah, more or less. And inclusion. Yeah, so that's about labeling subnets. So not entire zone, but the subnets which belongs to some zones. Yeah, wavelet or far edge or something like that, because we cannot attach it to the load balancers which we have, to elastic load balancers basically.
And is it mixed with the classic zones, like the other regular zones? Like, do we have a cluster in both the zones and we want to exclude the local and wavelength, or
yes,
the cluster is entirely in the local and wavelength zone and not the regular zones?
So that's for mixed clusters specifically. So for example, we have an existing clusters and we want to add subnets and virtual machines within wavelet zone. If we have that Kubernetes IO/cluster ID tag on these entities like subnets and virtual machines, so the CCM would try to attach this to existing load balancers, so which breaks Cloud Controller Manager effectively.
I see this, yes. And the load balancer controller would also run into the same issue, right? Not only the CCM. So They
Mhm.
both of them use the same strategy here. So I think we need
Yeah,
to think through it further to see how we can solve this use case. So workaround is to like use subnet tag where you want to specify the subnets that you want to attach the load balancer to, but I guess that's not feasible in this case, like specifying subnet for each of the load balancers here.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so let's take it further. You can assign to me, myself and Nick, and then we'll look into it further. If you
Okay.
have any proposal, feel free to bring it out and we can work on it.
Yeah, so basically I try to describe proposal which feels reasonable to me. Like right now, probably if we could introduce a special text for subnets to exclude these subnets from auto discovery, so that would work.
Okay. But
If
then
it,
all the subnets in that particular zone needs to have this tag, right?
no, I mean that auto discovery logic, which we have within Cloud Controller Manager, which looks at tags. So if we
Correct,
have
correct.
like it'll be tags on that, so it would be attached if it marked as like kubernetes.io/cluster with cluster ID, it would be attached. So if we could specify explicitly that we do not want to attach these concrete subnets to the
Okay.
load balancer, that would solve at least our
And
problem.
you want like to tag every individual subnet in that region, not only like certain subnet.
Not every individual, only certain. So
Okay.
which belongs to that wavelet zones, for example.
Okay, got it. Yeah, sure. Assign it to us, and then we can. If you have any changes, any PR, feel free to bring it about. We can discuss further on a PR as well.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Welcome.
All right, awesome. Kishore, what are yours and Nick's GitHub IDs here, just so I don't mess this up?
Mine is Kishore J. Nick, let me look up.
I can remember what his icon looks like, but I don't.
I'm just loading my GitHub here to look it up. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
It's NCK Turner, not an NCK. Yes, that one.
Awesome. And I guess, should I mark this as triage accepted, or do you guys want to put that?
So
in?
this is in the cloud provider AWS, like a separate one. Do we
Okay.
still go ahead with that?
Okay, I'll let you guys mark it up then.
Sure.
All right, awesome. Thank you. All right, Dennis, did you get everything you needed there?
Yep. So I guess my next steps is to put up a PR and proceed with that discussion there.
Yeah, and I sync up with Nick and Kishore in the issue and whatnot then.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
cool.
sync up offline as well if you're interested. I will also look through this issue and see like what approach we can take here.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much. Now tell me if I say this right. Jyoti, I think you've got the next one.
Yeah, hi guys. This is my first time in this meeting, so hi. My name is Jyoti, and I work with Nick and Kishore and all the other AWS guys here. I'm a cluster operator, manage a lot of clusters, look at issues that arise from them. And with cloud providers, one of the given things is an AZ outage could happen. So I wanted to, I have thoughts about that when these things happen, most times these are Byzantine problems. We can't handle them well. And one of the things that happened last time was the CCM controller was able to establish the lease because HCD connectivity was not broken, but the leader which held the lease was not able to connect to the internet. So even though there was a leader for CCM, it was not very useful. And CCM makes so many calls, and there are no heuristics to say how to kill CCM process if I see these patterns of failure. Because let's say STS like IAM fails, or ELB calls fail, or just DNS fails, anything could happen. My proposal here was that we make something that a cluster operator can create a CRD or something of that sort, and the leader election mechanism looks at that and weighs away, kind of. But apart from that, the proposal, I wanted to just hear out because other providers are here. How do they think about this problem of zonal outage and partition nodes where lease is able to get established, but thing cannot really work? And it's really not for CCM, certainly, but CCM is where it's a complex component. And when I went to API machinery, they said that you could implement a live Z and live Z could fail. That's great. But for CCM, I don't know how to implement a good live Z that could fail on like zonal outages. So yeah, that's the context. Yeah, I can answer more questions if the explanation lacks clarity.
All right, so does anyone have thoughts about that, about how we could capture this for these zonal outages?
Has anyone seen these problems while operating CCM or their controllers?
Yeah, I have not seen this problem. I don't know if others have.
Well, just to clarify, do you see this as something that would happen via manual intervention or via like as described here, or do you anticipate there being like endpoints or health checks or something that would make it possible to automate this? I don't know.
Yeah, manual intervention. I'm meaning that as a cloud operator, I know that an outage is going on. So instead of having automated checks, look at Byzantine problems and know whether or not I know that something is happening, I could create a CRD. And the leader election controller can look at a CRD. And the controller CRD will be like exclude zone or something as a tag, something like that. And of course, the controllers need to know which zone they're operating on. And if a controller has a lease and is in the bad zone, it could say, well, I release the lease for the next one.
But right now you have the possibility to kind of mark that you don't want a controller on specific VM. You can kind of just move the manifest from the kubelet.
Yeah, the problem during that time, those times are we cannot reach those instances either. And as an operator, let's say I have 1,000 clusters, I have to put 1,000 clusters VMs and move the manifest out.
Okay, but in solution with some CRD, you would need to go through the 1,000 clusters and apply the same CRD over 1,000 clusters. So where's the gain here?
So the trouble is the bad instances are so network partitioned that I cannot go into it to do anything. But I know that you have to do SSH or some other mechanism to get into the instance to do some action. But I cannot do that. But I know that HCD lease connectivity is good. So I'm leaning on the fact that connectivity to HCD is established, so I can apply that from anywhere through a public endpoint of the cluster. We have like 2 or 3 master instances. I can apply the CRD reliably through any master. And because the bad master can still connect to HCD, it will know, well, I have to relinquish. This is only relevant when HCD connectivity is present. If HCD connectivity is not present, it's a moot point because these will be broken, things are good. This is only when a master could still talk to HCD, but cannot connect to anyone else. Yeah, because master and HTTP are in the same VPC based on the setup. They're not partitioned.
Okay.
So I guess none of us has seen any of these problems.
I mean, it's sounding like a very edge problem, although
Yeah.
maybe I'm confused about something. To what you were just saying, if there's a zonal outage and you have a control plane node that has etcd on it, and obviously it can communicate with itself, but like, would it lose quorum to the other etcd members then? Like, if you had a CRD that was generated in one place, how could you assure that it got propagated to the rest of the cluster? If, like, especially if you had your control plane set out, you know, HA across zones or something like that, and you had a zonal outage
Well,
in one place.
we already know that the leader is held by the last remaining instance, so it kind of assumes that the etcd connectivity is still there. Because if there would be no etcd connectivity, the last leader would lose the leader on the instance that has the outlet would be released, and the leader would jump to some other instance. So it kind of assumes that we have this etcd connectivity.
Yeah. So it's not that HTTP is on the bat node. HTTP has 3 different VM setup. Master has 2 different VM setup, HA, and they're on the same VPC. So the partition has not affected them, but getting into the node, working any function out of the node to connect to internet is not working, let's say. So yeah, I faced probably 5 or 6 such customer issues where these things happen over, like, if you operate like thousands of clusters, this is an edge case, and even 0.1% would be probably in hundreds. So that's where I see this problem, and I'm just trying to get, like, socialize this idea that, do you see it's a valid problem? And haven't even seen this, so that's the intent. I'm not looking for like answers right away though.
And what do you think about the idea of kind of removing the list object? So an CCM or any control that requires on the leases would just could be elected.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah, it's probably we can call it like lease stealing, but the default lease the parameters is every 2 seconds it tries to take a lease for next 15 seconds. So, and it's not reliable to say that, yeah, I could steal the lease for a bit, but the bad node could still take the lease over again. It's not a reliable way. So the lease is active for 15 seconds. So even if I steal it, it is like a surgery. It's not documented well. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I wrote this part of the code with the 5 seconds and the 2 seconds, so I kind of know how it works, right? If we could have a split brain situation, actually.
So back to your previous question, GOT, you might actually be like the world expert in this topic if no one else is hitting it, or perhaps it might be worth reaching out on the mailing list also to see if others have experienced this, just to cast a wider net.
Yeah. Okay. So in the short term, the way I'm thinking is I could still implement a live Z check, which I control, and I can look at this object. So instead of leader election object looking at it and doing its stuff, I can still, in the short term, look at it from the live Z, but I have to implement like 10 live Zs, CCM, cert controller, KCM, scheduler, and the list goes on. And it's not extensible to any component that's out there, right? So I could still go do it, but I'm looking for something generic so that I go implement it. Gets its the intention.
Sorry, could you repeat that last sentence? You just broke up a little bit.
Are you still with us, Jyoti?
Oh, maybe we lost him. Hmm.
Yeah, it seems like possibly a connection issue. Joel, I see you have your hand up. Did you have a question for Jyoti or just in general?
Yeah, I had a question for Jyoti about the leases. Yeah, I probably should wait till he comes back, but my understanding is each of these components is using the default cube lease algorithm. And so they need access to a working API server to be able to renew the lease. If there's a failure in their networking, then they won't be able to talk to the API. And so they won't be able to renew the lease, at which point they should give up and normally panic. Is that not what's happening, or have I misunderstood something here?
Well, it's a little different scenario. This scenario assumes that networking works, but some specific APIs doesn't work. So for example, API to create or to check the status of the VMs. So actually cloud node controller wouldn't work, but the networking and the Kubernetes API would work.
Right.
Got you. So I missed that nuance.
I dropped for 2 minutes because of the internet. Could you repeat, please?
I just had a question about the leader election stuff, but I missed the nuance that it was the AWS API that was down and not just some like complete zonal failure.
And just to back up a little bit, Jyoti, I think before you dropped out, you were talking about the current workaround. And if I understand that correctly, you're creating liveliness probes for all these things.
Yeah.
And I think we missed the end of your statement there. So maybe if you could just kind of finish your thought.
Yeah, so I'm going to implement livez checks for many components, CCM, cert controller, scheduler, many other things that I'm interested in as an operator. What I think is it will be good as an operator if I hit a well-defined label or pattern, create a CRD, and the lease object of all leadership election-based components could benefit from that. As a cloud operator, I know that here's the time for the next 1 hour, this zone is bad. So anybody who is a team who is using the cluster, I'm not in direct contact with them. I just created a cluster for them. They could know that there is CRD. They don't have to do that themselves. The leader election controller knows about that and turns it away saying, I should not be the leader. I'm in the bad zone and somebody else should take over, and relinquishes the control and never takes it. There could be TTL, safety, that doesn't happen for more than 15 minutes, 1 hour. We can do all of those things. But yeah, it's extensible to more controllers than just me as a cloud provider doing something in isolation.
Okay, so that sounds very actionable to me, and that I'm guessing that might be in the discussion on this issue here. But the notion of being able to say, okay, I'm going to apply this label that describes there'll be a zonal outage, and so like this component should release its leadership and another one should take it. Am I hearing that correct?
Yeah, kind of that. And this cert controller, which is not an AWS vendor thing, it could take benefit from that and move away to a different component, right? Controllers in Azure, GCP, anybody writing a controller could use this mechanism to move away leadership. And zones are a thing in all cloud providers.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. Like I'm not really sure what the next step here would be. Are you looking for kind of more discussion?
Yeah, I'm looking for people who I could brainstorm with, people in SRE orgs in your organizations. I could take contact. I could reach out to you next. People on this call to see who I could talk to. People who are SREs might be dealing with customers. They might be seeing one-off issues like that, and I'm looking for contacts to see how edge case is this. If it's like, this is not really an edge case. So nuanced that we don't have to take it. I'm all okay with that. But I do want to talk to more people. So I could, after this call, look at the attendee list, reach out to people to see they could put me in touch with someone who could be interested in talking more.
Yeah, so it sounds like right now this is kind of like information gathering and you're trying to reach out and meet other people. So unfortunately, this meeting, although it's quite large today, we have a lot of people. Usually this meeting is kind of small. I would definitely recommend reaching out on the Kubernetes developer list to see if others have run into this. And yeah, just start to expand your net that you're looking for people to get in touch with. Because you're probably right. There are probably others who have encountered this. It's just a matter of how do we get in touch with them, right? How do you find them, basically?
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to take all of the time. So yeah, that's my time. Thank you very much, all of you.
Cool. Thank you, Jyoti. That was a great topic. All right. Next, we got Bridget. Looks like looking for some feedback here. So why don't you take it over?
Oh, yeah, this one might be sort of short because Nick had actually had a chance to look at this, put some comments on. Then we had kind of the slow turnaround. And it's kind of a meta question of, do we have, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that, a colleague of mine wrote back to Nick, and then it's been a couple of weeks. And like, this is one we were trying to get in, and, it's okay that it didn't make it in this time, but I'm sort of wondering, of course, when and if Nick has a chance, he can look at it again. Perhaps if anyone else who understands this space wants to take a look. And also perhaps we need to try to get more people as reviewers, just so that the burden doesn't all fall on, Nick, et cetera. Yeah, I'm not sure what you think of that, but that's kind of where my thinking is. So I guess for the start, the first question is, does anyone else have any insights into route controller and IP changes that they want to weigh in with? And yeah, and then the larger question, I guess.
Yeah, I personally do not have a ton of expertise here. I understand how it works, but I don't have like experience about, what you're talking about here. Does anyone else in the call have a comment about this, or would like to? I'll just go back up to the top here so we can see what the original issue was.
Yeah, it's trying to be a bug fix, which gets a little complicated because I guess with some providers, the IPs can change.
Okay, yeah, so this is about like the route controller needs to update its node IP if the node reboots or something, or it changes. Yeah, that sounds tough. So like what the behavior now is that it does not update the node IP, it just kind of stays the way it was or whatever.
Yeah, the bug is that if the node IP changes, routes won't be updated. It'll just kind of sit there being like, what?
So it sounds like at some level too, and I don't know the route controller that well, but it sounds like there needs to be some awareness of when the node, comes back with a different IP address. That sounds relatively complicated.
Yeah, or even I think that's why there was some nuanced discussion about it. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of surface this one. We don't have to spend infinity time on it, but especially if people with specific context aren't on the call.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I kind of just wanted to see if anyone had thoughts about it, and then also maybe bring up the topic of, I hate to have all of this be on a couple of people's plates. If we can get more people who want to review this kind of PR, I'm not sure exactly what the plan is for moving forward on that, but maybe we need to try to make that happen. Yeah,
I definitely agree that this is an area where we probably could use more reviewers, because even if it all goes down to Nick and Walter, that's not enough people for us to scale this. I think that's
not fair to them.
Right, totally. And in my impression, like some of the difficulty here is just finding people who are working with the CCMs at a low enough level that they're like comfortable reviewing these things. I'm not sure how we expand that net. That's kind of a bigger question for me.
Well, it sounds like Jyoti understands this stuff pretty well. So I'm just like, hey, let's recruit people on this call are the ones who are interested in this stuff.
Right.
I could, I'm not a reviewer. I could take a look, help, but I'm not sure with this one.
But this, not asking you to solve something. This is so much like Yes, exactly what Jay is saying in the chat. Please go ahead and unmute and mention your thoughts there, because I feel like this is where we need to give people a chance to start becoming reviewers, so it doesn't get stuck on just a couple people. Yeah, when Nick and Walter are here.
Yeah, because I think. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was saying you could have a shadow program or something like that. Like that'd be great.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because I think we need to make sure, and this is something I've seen in other SIGs too, is like making sure that people who want to start being contributors have that chance to up level and become, you know, forces to reckon with in this community. And especially if you have deep understanding of one specific area and you want to start applying that to more, like, I'm just kind of looking at the folks who are very informed coming to this call and thinking, you could be the reviewers.
Yeah, +1 to that idea. I think, everyone who is here representing, some cloud or some large provider or something like that, ask your colleagues, ask your friends internally who are also working on these projects. This is a great opportunity for junior developers also to get involved. So perhaps, some people who are looking to get more involved in open source and they work with you on related topics internally. Certainly, if you could direct them this way, we would be happy to reach out and, as Jai is kind of suggesting here, maybe a shadow program, or maybe something where we pair up and work on some bugs together, like, or just reviews together. I shouldn't say bugs. That would be really nice. So yeah, this is kind of a call to action for everyone who's here. If you know someone, let them know we're looking for people.
Awesome. And then, yeah, if anyone wants to take a look at that longstanding, but hopefully almost resolved bug that I have a colleague reporting there, be thrilled to have even your feedback of like, hey, the stuff that you are trying to fix here in my, especially if you have fresh eyes and you look at it and you think, I don't know if this does fix it because of this. That would be super helpful. Because of course we want to get it fixed and we want to get it fixed right. Or at least as right as we can get it.
And I'll just mention this because Jai, and please correct me if I'm saying your name wrong there. Is it Jai or Yai or?
Jay's fine.
Jay? Okay. I was saying it totally wrong.
Yeah.
So Jay is saying in chat here that the SIG release team has a really good shadow program. So that might be another place for us to look at and maybe get some advice. Thank you, Jay. Okay, any other comments on this topic or things that we would like to bring up in general? All right, I am not seeing any hands go up.
Just a quick question for Denise. Are you on Kubernetes Slack?
Yes.
What's your ID?
dmoiseev, I guess the same as on this meeting.
Okay, I was just like trying to follow up the ID that you use on GitHub. So, okay, let me look up using this ID.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, cool. Anything else? I think we're going to skip triage today just because I don't necessarily feel comfortable triaging these things. I'd prefer if Nick or Walter were here. Unless someone has a strong desire to look at them, I guess we could look and see what's there. So
there were a couple. I think one was a GCP. Wow, this has been around for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it looks like it.
What are our recent? Oh, I see somebody reopened it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Ooh, kube system. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure here. We should probably wait on this one.
Yeah.
Let's see what the other one is here.
Oh, that's the one we were just talking about.
Oh, oops. Oh, I think we talked about this one.
Oh,
last
yeah.
time, too.
That's familiar. Did we not, does it still have needs triage? Oh, I see.
And we were asking about it, was there a cap for this? And there is a cap.
Okay.
So I guess once it's reviewed, like, does that mean this should be accepted then?
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking, going, is there a reason that it's still listed as needs triage?
Yeah. All right. Maybe we should just accept this since there's a cap that's open for it. Let's see what their review process on that is happening. Okay. Well, I mean, it looks like that's in motion. So.
Okay. So triage accept. Awesome.
Is
Progress.
that, I just gotta make sure, yeah, is that the
I
right
think
way to
it's
do
the
it?
hyphen.
Triage accepted.
I think I'm going by memory though. I didn't look, so
All right,
I guess scroll up and
let me look at one of the other ones that needed triage. So I think it had the command in there somewhere. Or if anyone knows, feel free to shout it out.
yeah, there's a label that gets applied. You can see the in the list of commands. Sorry, if you click on that.
Where?
I understand
Oh,
the
here we go.
commands that are listed here.
Yeah.
If you search in there for the word triage, you'll get the correct.
So I guess.
No, that's a remove. Keep looking.
That's the only thing coming up with
Oh.
triage. I know I just saw it in one of these too, though. Like it was said it needed to be triaged and
There
The
we
other
go.
issue has an example of what needs to be done, the very last comment.
Right there.
oh yeah, okay, cool.
Oh, it doesn't have a hyphen. Okay, cool. You were right.
Needs triage needs a hyphen.
Yeah, that's where it gets very exciting. So you're right. Don't no hyphen, just there you go.
Okay. Well,
Pair
if
programming.
I did wrong, someone can go remark it the other way.
All right.
Okay, so I mean, I guess that's it. We'll leave the other one for when
Okay.
Nick and Walter are around. Okay, I guess anything else? I'm gonna stop sharing here. Anything else, or should we take back some time here? Not seeing any hands go up. So thank you, everybody, and I guess we'll see you next time.